Isn't code switching just deceiving white people?
Say what?
Well, Marcus, isn't it?
What? So I'm not sure everybody knows what code switching is.
Okay.
Right. So code switching in terms of how at least I've thought of code switching is particularly, I'll give my experience. I know that there are ways in which I'm supposed to present myself in situations in which I present myself less the stereotypical version of black in those spaces. So if I go into a predominantly white space, if I go into a space where there's business going on, there's this assumption that to present in a very like natural, comfortable black way, if you will not be accepted. And so what people of color will do, and I'm saying specifically black people, they will present themselves differently. They'll present themselves differently in how they dress, how they talk, and maybe even the subject matter at which they may talk about in that setting. So that would be a code switching. Is that fair? I mean, am I missing something?
Yeah. I remember when I was in high school, like I learned that if I was walking down the hallway, I went to a suburban Richardson here in Texas, Lake Highlands. If you're from Texas, then, but there was mostly white people there when I was going.
Okay.
And I was walking down the hall, and for the white dudes that I saw, I'd throw my head up. And for the brothers that I saw, I threw my head down.
Okay.
It's the picture of the code switch, just with body language.
Is this like this reminds me of like that meme that goes around with Barack Obama?
That's right. That's
and
right.
they put like the different neighborhoods in the community,
That's
like when he
right.
comes in, so he's dapping up the more black areas and he's shaking hands with the more predominantly white areas. That's kind of the code switching, right?
But is it deceptive though?
Is it deceptive?
Deceptive is the big word. That's quite the accusation.
So how would we
Maybe there's another reason.
Well, I'm just trying to think of like it's deceptive. Deceptive only makes it sound like a pejorative, right? Like
it makes it sound malicious or whatever.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Like you're the deceiver or liar.
Right, exactly. So, is it being completely authentic? Is it being completely vulnerable? No, it's not. Right. But the question becomes, why? Is that the desired way in which black people would like to present themselves in the space?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you take it out of the racial conversation,
yeah, that's fair.
And you say, "Hey, I work at JCPenney,"
yeah,
and people come up and they talk to you while they're working at like you code switch to a customer service agent. You know, you don't talk like you talk at home. You talk like you talk like a customer service person. You know, or when you know what I'm saying, or if you're waiting tables, like there's a certain way that you talk that's acceptable in society for what you think people expect from you in that moment. I don't know that it's deceptive. It's it's pretty normal to code switch across the board anyway. The question is, why do people of color feel they need to code switch around white people in certain scenarios? But I think code switching as a concept is relatively normal. Like none of us are who we are authentically all the time.
Yeah, I think that's a helpful word. I mean, I think of the term verisimilitude, which is you act the way you are supposed to act based on the position or the place that you are in.
Yeah.
So we use all the time in the midst of the public square. You think about elections, presidential elections. What's one of the things we're always looking for? Do they act presidential?
Yeah.
Right? Do they speak presidential, act presidential? So that's a kind of, I don't know if these cats are like this every time they leave, right? But when they're in front of the camera, they are code switching to a way in which they are expected to act in a situation. But to your point, it's like, is there something different about, say, a black person coming in? Is there a different kind of feeling about a black person coming into a white space and acting, quote unquote, themselves, if you will? Is there something?
Yeah, I think
different about that?
Obviously, I mean, I feel like this wouldn't be news to people, but most black people, or at least historically, coming out of like slavery and all that stuff, right? In that time period, you didn't want to be a threat, because to be threatening or to cause problems or be someone who seemed as though they were going to be a problem was dangerous for you.
Okay.
So code switching was a survival mechanism for a long time, at least for black people, and probably at some point for many for many persons of color across history of America anyway.
Yeah. I mean, you can see code switching. I'm thinking about when our Asian brothers and sisters came over and they changed their names to make it easier for people to say. Right. That could be a code switch.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like it was a survival mechanism, and because I would keep hearing like these movies where you have the older black person and then you have the younger black person that's like ready to stands up or says something assertive to some white person, and the black person like, hey, pipe down, these are good white folk, they're gonna they take care of us. We don't want no trouble. You know. And so it's just kind of I wonder if that just kind of some of that just passed along generation to generation and just take on a kind of evolution. Because I know that in the corporate world, there seems to be a certain behavior that's acceptable, but that seems to be set by white culture.
I think that's the huge piece, right? Is that the acceptability that we're trying to engage, if you will, the things that have been created as and defined as acceptable have been defined in our predominantly white society by white people, right? You could say that if you go to India, same thing. Like the Indian people have determined this is the thing that's acceptable to be acceptable in their context. So here in America, white people have set the context of what is acceptable, right? And so when you come into that space and you are not, you don't do those things, you are considered unacceptable. So, and there's a history, right? There's a history of kind of the ways in which historically, when you think about the racial categories, Black people particularly have been at the bottom of the racial categories. And so anything that we do has been considered less. And if there's things that are very specific to how we communicate, how we move, those things have been considered less, right? Much like if you were thinking about opera versus musical theater, right? Like musical theater is a lesser form than opera. Gospel in our country has been a lesser form than CCM or something, right? These kinds of things. So I think that there's an issue there in that the environment has been defined, and anybody coming in has to be successful, has to adhere to that. And you're thinking about, so you got your hairstyle, right? You and I used to have the same hairstyle when we first met, right? And so mine changes all the time, right? But I've got these dreadlocks. And I've had several people who knew me, say 10 years ago, who have seen me recently come in contact, and almost to quotes, they're like, oh, I guess you're not doing that clean cut thing anymore. Right. Or I used to like when you had that GQ look, you know what I mean? So there's a sense of like, what is this look that you have? It's not acceptable, right? Dreadlocks have been connected and put into an unacceptable mode. So when you come into that space, they got to go, right? And we've seen that with the Crown Act in California and folks being oppressed or kept from doing things because of their hairstyles, right? And so a code switching would be, I'm gonna straighten my hair. If I'm thinking of black women, I'm gonna straighten my hair to look more like white women, so I will be quote unquote not only successful in those areas, but to be considered pretty, right? And that happens to black women, right? When they straighten their hair, they're like, oh my gosh, I love your hair, it's so pretty, right? And it's because it has now become this norm in this form. So
yeah, it takes us back to the white privilege conversation we had a long time ago, where something has to be normal, and somebody sets that normal, and then everyone has to kind of adhere to that normal, or they are abnormal, or they are weird, and there's a consequence and a privilege to being normal and not normal,
right? But is it deceptive?
Is it? I don't think it's. I think that's a weird. Whoever said that. Feels
Pepper. What do you think?
Yeah, Pepper.
You want to further explain yourself?
Yeah, can you tell us why you texted that to Marcus in the middle of the night?
I cannot. No, sorry.
No, I think that person feels some weird right toward
to be able to have access.
To
the fullness
to someone's full self, and it even also potentially signals that they feel that they have freedom to be themselves all the time, and can't connect to the concept of someone having to adjust their behavior in order to fit into something, or I keep saying to survive. And I'm raising it to the level of survive because I think survive is it like you will get fired.
Right. It's not survive like somebody's going to stab you.
That's right. But like it only takes one. So I feel like it only takes one or two times for me to lose it in a work scenario, for someone to be like, hey, that's not it. Where I'm not sure that that's the way it is for everybody.
Right. Right. And look, and I've been disconnected in some ways from my I remember at the last church I worked at, I was told by somebody on the staff, like when they heard about this idea of code switching, they're like, I really want you to be you. I want you to feel free to be you. And what's ironic is when I got up and I was me fully, like I was saying things about what it means to be black in the midst of a white church. It became the moment that ultimately set me on the pathway to not be able to stay at that church anymore. So I remember telling that person, they're like, I want you to be you. And I was like, you don't want me to be you. The people around here don't actually want that. Yeah. They like the look, but they don't want my life, right? Yeah. They don't want to engage on that. Pepper, did you have something?
Yeah, Antwuan, you said it's something that you needed to do for survival. And that brought up something in my brain of like, you understand code switching unless you've never had to curb your behavior in order to fit in.
Yeah. You saying you don't understand it unless you've had to do that?
Yes. Like if somebody is saying, aren't you just deceiving by code switching, then that person maybe has clearly never had to curb anything about their personality in order to fit in. And like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah, this is not. I mean, generally, that's not even a racial thing. That's just generally they've been able to move through space without having to curb themselves.
And deceptive sounds like I'm trying to trick you, I'm trying to swindle you, and it's not any of that.
But not swindle and trick you, but I am trying to make you feel comfortable.
I mean, it's a motivation issue, right? I mean, so like we all, like you said, we all change how we act in different environments. To me, the person who says you're trying to trick me, it's like you took away my ability to have prejudice against you because I didn't recognize who you were because you acted a different way.
Yeah. How dare you? How dare you not let me be a little bit racist? I deserve the right to be just a little bit racist if that's who you are.
But I do want to push it. No, I do want to challenge. I do want to challenge that motivation piece, Shmevin, because I know it can be very tempting to sort of use the code switching to get what you want, and to not only create a better spot for you to survive, but to create a better spot for you to thrive, right? Where you can be disingenuous about the relationship that you're engaging and only engage them as as the representative, if you will, for the entire time and not let people in. And in fact, control it in such a way that you don't let people in. And I think that's a harmful thing for relationship building in this racial space. Now, I'm not saying you go out and immediately throw in the vulnerability at the top, but at some point you've got to let certain aspects in to see if the relationship is real. And if they can't accept you, like this church I was at before, as soon as it started being real, they couldn't accept me, then we now know that we've got an issue to engage on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, hey, I guess that's good question. I'm glad you thought about that last night and
didn't solve it, but
no, that's all right.
That's okay.
It's a yes or no. I don't know.
It's okay.
It's just we just need to know the things behind it. That's the same.
It's not deceptive. It's just not.
It's
authentic.
It's not deceptive.
It's just not
survival.
Authentic.
It's just not authentic.
Yeah. I'm okay with it being not authentic.
Okay.
I don't want to be my authentic self to everybody.
I agree. You don't need to do that because it's. All right. Look, that's been another.
I now want to be.
Now you want to be completely authentic.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Another segment of Say What.